A very, very warm welcome to yet another Kumekucha video. Information and analysis that is very difficult to find anywhere else. I recommend that you subscribe and you hit the bell button so that you receive notifications every time I have a new video. Karibu sana and enjoy. In August 2017, Kenyans went into a class without knowing they were starting a course. They were starting a course in politics. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the class was being done on this channel. No way. This was a class, which was being carried out by God Almighty Himself. Now, later on, I'll tell you what the purpose of this class is. But for now, there are a few interesting things we must note. And that is before we come to yesterday's incident, right in the middle of Nairobi, where an improvised explosive device, an IED, went off, and injured at least 2 people quite seriously. And yes, what I'm saying and what happened on the junction of Latema and Tomboya Street yesterday, outside Smother's restaurant, are connected. They're linked. You know, I've been analyzing politics in Kenya for a very long time. Next year, it'll be 15 years since the Kumekucha brand was launched. Now, in the early days, we started talking about foreign interference in Kenyan politics, how foreigners control Kenya. In those days, I was putting my sensitive information into what I used to call raw notes. Now, immediately I came up with that topic, I lost a handful of subscribers. In 2013 and in 2017, during the elections of those years, I brought up again the same issue, very important critical issue in any general election in Kenya. And again, the response was wide yawns. People are not interested. They didn't think it mattered. Well, after we all went into this class on August 2017, now things have changed, and I can sense it. Whenever I bring up this topic, people give very informed comments, very informed contributions. People are no longer bored. The other thing many Kenyans learned, in this class we have been put in, actually the top guys in the class learned it, because the majority still have not seen it, is that politicians are in politics not for our good. No way. Politicians are in politics for their own good and development. And they divide us along tribal lines. They put us in clusters of tribes in order for them to meet their objectives, in order for them to get elected. Because politics is all about emotions. Therefore, drum up the right emotions and get elected. And the easiest way to drum up emotions in a Kenyan, is to start identifying them by their tribe, and telling them things like, our tribe are being finished. Our tribe has never produced a president. Why? And yet we have brilliant people in our tribe. Immediately you start talking like that, you drum up, you provoke the emotions of all the members of your tribe. Now, there's a very smart politician in Kenya, who has taken the game a notch higher. Instead of just talking about tribe, tell people our tribe has gone nowhere, and also us poor people, who don't have rich families, who don't belong to a well-known family, we have never had a chance. So this is our chance for the poor ordinary people of Kenya to produce a president. And you people know my background very well. I come from very humble beginnings. I have come from a very poor family, as opposed to my opponents. Now that one, you can be sure it drums up the kind of emotions that people are ready to die for you. Literally. And indeed, we have seen that even on social media. Somebody made a comment to the effect that he's ready, to die, for a certain politician. In other words, he's not ready to give his life for his country. No. He's ready to give his life for an individual. Now, you know, our teacher is very patient. When we don't get something, we go right back to the same lesson. And our teacher cannot be corrupted. You know, in the real world, we corrupt our teachers all the time. Yeah. You have a son who does not understand anything in class, but they have spent too much time in standard 1. Therefore, you just go to the teacher and you say, I say, Bwana, there's a small boozy here for you. I think my son should go to standard 2 now. Other times, you have students who don't get anything, and then sympathy comes from the teacher. Let's just take him to standard 2. We have tried our best. This guy still doesn't get it. I'm not sure if this boy has any brains inside their skull, but let's just promote them to standard 2. Yeah, sympathy. I think it is against human rights to keep somebody in standard 1 for so many years. Unfortunately, the kind of teacher we have in this course we started in August 2017 does not take that. Sympathy does not come in. Neither can they be bribed. Yeah. So, we're going to remain in standard 1 until we get it. But meanwhile, our teacher has not given up. Yeah. In fact, they have gone out of the curriculum. Yeah, because they have taught us what is in the textbooks we don't understand. Therefore, they are going out of the textbook, yeah, to make sure we understand. Yeah. But as I make this video, we have still not understood. How do I know we have still not understood? Because we have people today who are firmly DP Ruto supporters. We also have other peoples, other Kenyans today, some of them very highly educated, yeah, who are firmly on the handshake side. We have other Kenyans who worship Raila Odinga. They've always worshipped him. And so the teacher said, I'm Toki standard 1, I'm Toki. Another lesson we have not understood. I told you earlier on, politicians are not there to serve our interests. They're there to serve their own selfish interests. And that is why we say in politics, there are no permanent friends. Yeah? They're only permanent interests. So your friend today could be your enemy tomorrow. And your enemy today could be your best friend tomorrow. That's politics. And what drives this change? The personal interests of politicians. And so after the elections, if I can quickly remind you, after the elections in 2017, we all got very emotional, including myself. And I'll tell you what got to me. Yeah, it wasn't tribalism. It was the worst injustice you can think of. You steal an election from somebody in 2007, they end up being the prime minister. You steal an election from him in 2013, and then in 2017, you just rinse and repeat, and again you steal an election from them. Now in 2013, I did not vote for Raila Odinga. I voted for Martha Karua. Yeah. Now, I think that is enough evidence to prove that I'm not a die-hard Raila Odinga supporter. But in 2017, it was too much for me. Yeah. This injustice was just too much. And I believe the same thing happened to very many Kenyans right across the country. Yeah. The real emotion that drove the popularity of Raila Odinga was this injustice. You make a man spend money, travel all over the country campaigning, yeah, drumming up support, working very hard, and then you steal it from him. And so I got so emotional, yeah, that I forgot that I have a boss on this channel. And my boss, sio mchezo, yeah, he cannot be moved at all. And so what our wise teacher did, they created a handshake. Wow, that's what you call an anticlimax. It is like you fall head over heels in love with this girl, and she loves you back. In fact, the way things look, it looks like she loves you more than you love her. Yeah, you're totally, umeingia box totally, yeah, if I can talk like a Kenyan. And you also think, or rather you're sure, ata ya ameingia box totally. Then one day you wake up, yeah, and you go onto social media, and you discover there's a wedding which is taking place in a few days. The wedding is between the love of your life, yeah, that woman you thought alikuwa ameingia box totally, and another man, yeah, and not just another man. Your worst enemy. Oh yes, that's what the handshake did to some people. Fortunately not me, but I know many Kenyans, that is what the handshake did to them. They could not believe it. Up to now, they have still not come to terms with the handshake. But we're all still in class. And the lesson the teacher wants us to get is that politicians, these people called politicians, never ever put all your trust on them. Trust God, not politicians. Even if they come from your tribe. Yeah, and this lesson is very basic. Yeah. Interests are permanent, in politics. Friends in politics, never ever permanent. And that is why I'm not discounting very strong information, and including rumors that indicate that WSR, Deputy President William Samoei Ruto, is warming up to a man called Kalonzo Musyoka. That should not surprise anybody if you've gotten that lesson. Because all of a sudden, maybe their interests are aligned and therefore they come together. That should not even be shocking news. That's normal. Because surely, if you have understood 1 + 1 is 2, why should you be surprised that 2 + 2 is 4? Why? Why should you be surprised if you have really understood? Let me sum up all this in a very simple way. The lesson we all need to understand, me included, before we are promoted to Standard 2, is that in politics, we should run away from individual politicians or supporting politicians and focus on issues. Period. We should never focus on what the handshake team are saying or what Deputy President Camp is saying. Instead, we should focus on issues. For instance, do we really need to change our constitution for a better Kenya? Or should we change our politicians for a better Kenya? Find a way to change our politicians for a better Kenya. Change our politics for a better Kenya. And actually, it is much easier to change our politicians than you think. All we need to do is to ignore them, and then focus on issues. So that when the handshake side comes to us with the big plans, we ask them, the creation of these new posts in a new constitution, how much will it cost? Second burning question, what guarantee do we have that when we change our constitution once again, it'll be able to tame our politicians? Because the 2010 constitution has not. One of the main objectives of the 2010 constitution, which we passed, was to tame the executive. And I was one of those people who were very sure, looking at the constitution in 2010, that it would tame the executive. A president cannot appoint without the approval of parliament. Bas, we've weathered this guy. The president and his deputy are not members of parliament. Now look what happened. Our intelligence community decided that they're not going only to rig a presidential election, they're also going to rig in members of parliament to ensure that the president had a majority. So even with a new constitution, a very good 2010 constitution, we have still not tamed the executive. So what guarantees do we have that if we make yet more changes, we're going to tame our politicians? We're going to tame the executive, tame all those people who do evil, who take Kenya backwards instead of forwards. What guarantee do we have? And we pose this question to those for a referendum and a change of the constitution. That is focusing on issues rather than worshipping the handshake side. That whatever Uhuru Kenyatta says must be good for us, must be right. Whatever Baba says must be good for us, must be right. We don't need to think. In my view, if we need to change the constitution, if we must change it, there's only one thing we must change. We don't need to create more posts. We just change one thing. And we say, anybody who wants to vie for the presidency must not belong to any political party. And 2 years before the election, must be a non-member to any non-political party in Kenya. Let the political parties have their own bosses, people who will never be president. yeah, and let the presidency be for individuals who can convince Kenya that they are for a better Kenya. So if you want to be president and you're William Ruto, you want to be president in 2022, by the end of the year 2019, you should not belong to any political party. And we look at the political rallies you attend. Who is accompanying you? Yeah. If we find any evidence that you're linked to any political party, you will be disqualified, yeah, for vying for the presidency. Same to Raila Odinga. Same to Gideon Moi, Ali Hassan Joe. Anybody who wants the presidency must not belong to a political party. For the simple reason that a president is supposed to unite the country. Yeah. Again, a president is supposed to have parliament as an important check and balance. Let the president use his immense executive power to create a better Kenya, and then let the people in parliament do their work completely independently. And the president can push the agenda by negotiating with parliament, yeah, because he still has to sign all the bills into law. Anyway, those are my views. Now, the attack yesterday, yeah, the explosion of an IED, improvised explosive device, yeah. Now, it's not a secret. This is one of the tools, yeah, that has made Al-Shabaab what it is today. Believe it or not gun attacks, yeah, IEDs. Now, by the time I was making this video, nobody had claimed responsibility, yeah, but we know IEDs are the trademark, yeah. They are the signature, yeah, of that terror group. And my information so far, yeah, points in that direction. And there's some other highly sensitive manenos, yeah, which I discuss in my latest weekly intelligence report. But let me pluck out something from that latest intelligence report, yeah, which we can discuss here. And I believe is part of our classes, part of the things we need to learn so that we graduate to standard 2. Now, the latest, yeah, highly sensitive intelligence reports indicate that there's a terrorist attack, yeah, being planned, or shall I say is imminent, yeah, to happen in our neighboring country, Tanzania. Now, apart from the attack in 1998, yeah, when the Kenyan embassy in Nairobi was bombed, yeah, simultaneously, yeah, with the one in Dar, with the American embassy in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, our neighboring brothers and sisters have remained immune. Yeah, they've not had any terror attacks. So, why now? Actually, what has happened is that Tanzania got a president in 2015 who is very different from any other previous president the country has ever had. And many things have started happening in Tanzania that have never happened in that country before. Things which only used to happen in Kenya. For instance, extrajudicial killings. We have had instances in neighboring Tanzania where somebody is discovered with a phone that has been stolen. The police shoot him dead and take him to the mortuary. And they tell the family they have no idea what happened to that person. We have had politicians who are opposed to President John Pombe Magufuli having their cars sprayed with bullets. Yeah, Tundu Lissu is a case in point. Until now, political assassinations have been the Kenya style of doing things. But now, it has gone into Tanzania. The result is that country is much more divided than it has ever been in its long history. Because Tanzania gained her independence 3 years before Kenya. Now, sharp divisions are very dangerous for a country, yeah, where a certain section of the country is very bitterly opposed to the government. And the government continues to clamp down heavily on its opponents. Now, isn't that exactly what was happening in Kenya in August 2017? My point is, where there's disunity, where you're very disunited, you become very vulnerable to outsiders coming in and messing you up. Even if they use your own people to mess you up. Let me give you an even more practical example. Yeah, from a real life example, something that I saw happen with my own eyes. A certain very rich guy, whom I know very well, living in the Nyali area in Mombasa, had a very serious misunderstanding with his wife of almost 10 years. His wife was very bitter against him, because they had struggled together to bring up this company. And now that the guy was prospering very well, his wife was accusing him of having affairs outside with other women. Now, in Mombasa, wanaume awalali. Loosely translated, men are very quick. So this young Casanova noticed that there was a problem here, and he seduced that man's wife, and they started having an affair. And the wife started transferring huge sums of money to this young man's company. This young Ben 10 was a graphic designer. So he got money, bought a brand new printing press, etc., etc. And the rich man discovered, and something very fascinating started unfolding. One day when this rich man was going to the office of this young Ben 10 to confront him, his wife tipped the man. She called him. She called him and told him, disappear from that office and put huge padlocks on it and don't come back there for 2 or 3 days until my husband cools down. Now this rich man was very lucky, because the next thing that would have happened. It has happened many times in Kenya. The wife and this young Ben 10, would have organized and murdered this rich man. Because this wife of somebody had fallen madly in love with this Ben 10. Some of their chats were intercepted, and I've actually read some of them. There's no doubt, this woman was deeply, deeply in love. And love makes you do crazy things. Not only finance whole printing presses, but do much more. My point is this, and don't get me wrong. The woman was not a bad woman. The woman was human. And what had happened is that a division had been created inside this house, making it very vulnerable for outside attacks. Attacks which could have even cost the owner of that house his life. That's my point in me telling you that story. So the current attacks, including what happened yesterday, the junction of Latema Road and Tomboya Street, outside the Smothers restaurant, these are consequences of the events of 2017. You must know that to plan a terror attack takes a long time. Minimum of 1 year, sometimes 2-3 years. The lesson for us Kenyans, we allowed ourselves to be clustered in tribes. We allowed ourselves to have hate against each other. We allowed ourselves to divide our country into 2 sides sharply divided against each other. Now, one of the things that happens when you get a country in this situation is that your intelligence community, who are supposed to look after security of the state, usalama wa taifa, divert their attention from external threats to internal threats to the government. They start focusing on following opposition figures, finding out who they're sleeping with, what they're doing, dirty deals they're doing, even listening in to private conversation by ordinary citizens. All their time and resources, taxpayers' resources, is diverted into focusing on your own citizens, killing your own citizens, etc., etc. And of course, this leaves your external enemies very happy and free to do what they want. Not only that, it is very easy for these external enemies of your country to come in and convince some of your own people to join them in attacking you. And the citizens of that country, well, they say, after all, I'm against this government. Let them be attacked. In fact, it is a good thing for them to be attacked. Washike adabu. For them to learn a lesson. So you become extremely vulnerable as a country. And this is exactly what Kenya became after August 2017. Now, a terror attack in Mandera or Garissa or the northeastern side of Kenya may not take very long to plan. It may take a very short time to plan. It's close to the border with Somalia. An attack in Nairobi may take years, as I've just said. You will notice that around the time of the elections, after August 2017, terror attacks in the northeastern side of Kenya increased dramatically. It is therefore safe to assume that plans for attacks further inside Kenya, Nairobi, Mombasa, etc., also increased at that time. And we are yet to see the full consequences or results of all that planning that must have taken place at around that time. And there's evidence in our neighboring country, Tanzania. because they became sharply divided after 2015. 2016, 2017, they were very sharply divided as a country because of the new leadership of President John Pombe Magufuli. And so the information that they're about to bear the brunt of serious terrorist attacks is very believable. And so the clear link between the attack in Nairobi yesterday and the classes we entered in 2017 is the fact that we failed to learn a key lesson. Never ever allow politicians to divide you, where you become so strongly opposed to your brother or your sister in the same country. And as we all know, choices have consequences. We chose to ignore that lesson, and therefore, now we must deal with the consequences. And the consequences are much more than failing to be promoted to Standard 2. Spending many years in Standard 1, trying to learn the same things. And over again, us failing to understand the lesson. You see, in my view, why we must learn this lesson is because Kenya is a chosen country. God Almighty has chosen Kenya to be a springboard for revival, to spread the gospel far and wide in these end times. And before God uses you, He has to prepare you. So the country called Kenya has to be prepared. And this thing of preparing stubborn human beings is nothing new to God. Moses was prepared in the wilderness for 40 years. The great King David was prepared for almost the same period. 40 years playing hide and seek with death. As King Saul was very determined to kill him, murder him. Now I don't know how long Moses spent in Standard 1, or even King David. I don't know. But I'm sure they spent quite some time in Standard 1. And precisely the same thing is happening to this person called Kenya. And unfortunately, there are a lot of other very bad things coming, so that we fully understand this lesson. Maybe even a famine, economic troubles we've already dealt with, very serious economic issues in Kenya, serious problems with the Chinese debt, etc., etc., and of course terror attacks. My prayer is that we Kenyans will start to pay attention as soon as possible. Tumalizane na hii maneno ya Standard 1 as soon as possible. Until next time, this is Kshs, Kumekucha.